Hey, Peter, CJ, guess what? We're live. Podcast. Why is the ball so hard?
Rob, you were muffled.
Am I muffled? Is that better?
That's way better.
That's way better.
I thought it was me at first.
Okay. We should start over.
All right. Start over. Here we go. All right, Coach. Here we go. All right, take two. Here we go. Welcome to the Field to the Deal podcast. This week, pep talks, hanging in there, Bronco fans. CJ Anderson, Peter Schaffer. We're going to talk about why is running the ball so hard.
Is it really hard?
I don't know. It seems to be hard in Colorado. Like maybe it's the altitude. There's rumors.
I don't know, but Mel Kiper said it's because of the cover two.
Maybe cover. Oh, jeez. There were rumors of the Broncos trying to get Josh Jacobs. So us, Peter, if there was any truth to that this offseason. How filled out is your report card for the Broncos? Baylor versus CU. Is there a winning streak ahead for Coach Prime? We're going to go ask super agent Peter Schaffer. Is Brock Purdy going to get paid like Trevor Lawrence or more like Geno Smith?
Ooh.
Plus some coach breakdown from CJ. Hopefully we get some film breakdown. So welcome to the Field to the Deal podcast. Like Sonic on the field, he never slows down. CJ Anderson.
Yay. What's happening?
He turned down the role of the new Matlock to focus on his guys. Founder of Authentic Athletics, the super agent Peter Schaffer Esquire.
I turned down the role. I thought they were looking for a female lead.
That's, you said no to him. That's fine. Nothing
wrong.
By
the way, my grandma loves Matlock every morning. Just throw it out there. And Matlock and Perry Mason. Just throw it out there. Shout out to grandma.
Right. And I'm Rob Blasi. I'm the 2,742nd ranked junior high basketball coach in Colorado. So you're watching on X, Twitter, YouTube, anywhere. You can find us also on Apple and Spotify after the show. We'll get that up there. So I want to thank Simpler AI digital marketing company. Help be found in a complex world. There's a link in the description and we'll place to set an appointment as well. So first question, after 2 weeks of NFL football, CJ, the Broncos have 163 total yards. CJ, you did more than that in one game.
163 total yards rushing.
Rushing.
Wow.
Why is running the ball so hard, CJ?
Well, one, you got to commit to it. That's the first thing you got to do. You got to commit to it, which means you have to call it in flow frequency. Like you can't call 3 runs in the first quarter, 8 runs in the second quarter, 5 runs in the third quarter, 5 runs in the fourth quarter. Look at the stat sheet. Hey, we ran the ball 20-something times. And it got to be in rhythm frequency. So that's one. And then 2, obviously you got to put your players in position with the blocking schemes. And then obviously everybody has to block, right? It's the O-lineman that gets you past the line of scrimmage. It's the receivers that makes those long runs go for touchdowns. So everybody must be a part of that run game.
So with the run game in Denver, the question I remember hearing a rumor over the summer, Peter, that Josh Jacobs, former Raider, now playing with the Packers, was there a chance that he was going to actually show up to Denver?
Well, so what happens is, as I'm just sending this email here, at the combine, everybody's sort of, well, if we do this, if we do this, right?
Yep.
So the fact that the Broncos dipped their foot in the pool or called someone, I mean, it's a huge difference between making a call saying we're interested in your player and that player showing up in Denver. So, okay. I mean, maybe the Broncos said, well, if you're at $6 million a year, we'll take Josh Jacobs. Well, when he got to 12, obviously they were out of that market. So, at the combine as an agent, when we're meeting with all 32 teams, you got to try to really ascertain and distinguish between who's legit, who's not, who's fishing, and who's really trying to catch something. And so a lot of agents miss the boat because I had meetings with 12 teams. Well, it's really what happens is it becomes almost a musical chairs. So if you've got a running back and you figure out there's 6 teams looking for running back and you're the 8th running back, well, you might not get a job. But if you're the first or second running back, then you'll go right away. Now, Jacobs was probably the second or third running back, and so once the first deal got done, he becomes next in the queue. But you have to make sure that you're counting the chairs properly because it is musical chairs.
So you're saying the Broncos it's like they might have swiped right, but they never got a message back.
I don't know what that. I don't know what that means.
Little Tinder analogy. Little day nap.
I
Little
don't
day
know.
nap analogy.
I have
Little
no
day nap
idea what-
analogy.
They were trying to date him, but Josh didn't give him his number.
It's like
Well,
you
no,
listed. It's like you list to go pick up your furniture on Craigslist, and this guy said he's interested, and you reach out, and he just never gets back. But he said he was interested.
Fair enough.
So, yeah.
Speaking about getting guys off the free agency, Scott, super GM. So,
Scott
So
McLuhan.
how do you handle the rumors in the offseason, Scott, with with Josh Jacobs, where he's going, things like that, or other players, and you're hearing these rumors? How do you sort of, filter out the rumors from what's fact?
Well,
we're talking about Scott Combine at the Combine. Everybody's fishing and
yeah. No. There's a lot of it's 50-50, truth and lies. But the thing about it is the fact that the ones that are real and the ones you meet with the head coach, you meet with the owner, or you meet with the agent face to face, and you can tell if they're full of crud or if they're telling the truth. But it's vital. I mean, it's your team. I mean, I'm sure CJ can talk about this. I mean, there's guys after him. And all of a sudden you're hearing certain rumors here and certain rumors there. And the last thing you want to do is believe everything you hear. That's why with me and being with Peter, he'd tell me the truth. And he knew what agents were telling the truth and not telling the truth, and he'll help me out tremendously.
Well, CJ can tell you.
I was just going to say the same thing, right? So now we don't. So yeah,
CJ
Pete
made a ton of money sitting in the San Francisco airport.
For 8 hours, right?
I kept his ass in the airport for 8 hours because I was going forth between Chicago and Miami, but I didn't want him to get on a plane. But he's like, "Can I go home?" I said, "No, keep your ass at the airport."
So two things. I was in the airport for 8 hours, and we got the deal done, which was great. But about the agents fishing, Pete can tell you this. So there's 2 agents that are active today. One is a super agent. Everybody knows his name, so I probably gave it him up. But I won't say those names. Or actually, they're both big. They're both big agents. There's 2 big agents that was active today. And at the Pro Bowl, I called Pete right after it happened. At the Pro Bowl, they're trying to steal me.
Yeah.
Trying to take me Peter's a good guy, but can't do this for you. They can't do this for you. One of the agents did it again at Kansas City, which was crazy. But I called Pete right after. I was like, "Hey, Pete, so-and-so is saying this, saying that." I'm a young player too. Young player, not paid yet. I'm having a great year. I made it to the Pro Bowl.
Certainly.
But I remember just calling Pete so this how y'all do each other? I thought it was a little family thing. Pete kind of gave me the real. I mean, obviously I never left Pete, but I thought that was interesting, right? Because at the end of the day, for me, I guess Scott can attend to this. It's character. So if you're doing that, then I know your character, and why would I want to be a part of that if you're doing that behind who I trust back, who's Correct. Supposed to be in the same, brotherhood or shield or whatever we call it.
Yeah. No, as you're well aware, it's a big business, and Peter knows it very, very, very well. But there's a lot of stuff out there, and you're just like, nah. But there's also really good agents like Peter too, really good agents that they'll tell you the truth, and you're like, okay, I need to go here, and he's like, yeah, you have to go there because I got 2 teams, and they wouldn't say the teams or whatever. They're offering this, and this. I'm like, okay. And I knew, with Peter and some other guys, I could trust. But that's probably a third of them. The other ones are just lying. I mean, they're like, no, they're offering him,
But, yeah, so what happens is we'll get into a room at the Combine. All the teams have a suite or whatever. And they'll be like, all right, so let's say you're Jacob's agent. And so Scott and his people would sit there and say, okay, what are you looking for? And they're like, well, $12 million a year. And so they don't say anything. They play poker. Okay, good. And as soon as you leave the room, I always said, I wish I could leave a listening device in the room for when I walk out. Because it's like, screw that guy. We ain't going there. Because when you're in the room, okay. And they're writing stuff down. I'm like, yeah, that's interesting. Yeah, we're in. But once you walk out the room, you got to really understand whether you're in or not.
That's crazy. There's someone's TV on in the background I can hear. I don't know who's.
Oh, it's mine. I'm sorry.
So, but
turn off days of your life.
Right. You can record it and watch it later, Scott. So then speaking of the Broncos and their running game, are we paying the dividends right now with the depth that they have for the Sean Payton and Russell Wilson trades? Because like with the Wilson trade, we lost approximate 7 starters, plus another first rounder for Sean. We did get a third rounder back from the Saints, which is arguably a starter. But like, are we paying the cost of that now, of not having the depth that we need in the positions? And is that hurting our running game or just, the team depth in general?
No,
or go ahead, Scott. Sorry.
No.
Scott, start. No, go ahead, Scott.
Go ahead, Scott.
Scott gave you from a GM perspective before I gave you from coaching.
Well, yeah, I think Javonte Williams is a hell of a football player. You know what? And he's just going to keep going up and up and up. As long he's got to stay healthy, of course. But not only when you start making trades, because I always learned from Ron Wolf was the fact that you acquire picks, not give picks away, because you need depth. And especially we talked about this the other day. 17-game season, it's going to go an 18-game season. You're going to have injuries, and we've already seen them, a lot of them. And that's part of the process. But I was always taught and mentored to acquire picks, not give picks away. Now, if you got a superstar you're going to get, and you got a chance to take you to the Super Bowl and be a Super Bowl contender or whatever, then I could think about it. But I always acquired picks. I never gave picks away.
What about you, CJ? What are your thoughts on the depth there and all the trades to get 2 players or 2 guys on the?
So it's tough, right? I mean, I don't know if I said this here or I said this somewhere else. I just remember like when we had Coop, like the difference between Foxy and Kubiak, and obviously we've had successful seasons with both. Kubiak will have veteran days off and make all these young guys get opportunities at certain positions because running back, you're going to get banged up. O-line, D-line, you potentially going to get banged up, right? That's besides like Peyton was older, so obviously Peyton got his day off. But like, if you can protect your quarterback, obviously you're fine. You don't want to be playing with your backup quarterback all year. But certain positions like linebacker, you want those depth, and you usually give them more reps during OTAs and training camp so they can grow. So if the time comes during the season, they can be there. I agree with Scott as far as Javonte being a hell of a football player. I think he's a really great, strong back. I do believe that Sean has to, play calling is huge. And I think some people don't understand on both sides of the ball as coordinators how important that is in getting Javonte in the rhythm. Like, it's not the fact that they had 163 total yards. It's the fact that they're not trying to establish the run from whatever reason. And like I said, maybe it's less RPO and more actually designed runs in Javonte field and let him do what he do, right? And it's actually opposing your will. And you have to work on it. You have to practice it. You have to do those things. But I think as far as the depth part of it, I don't know if the depth is the issue why the Broncos can't run the ball. I think it's the fact that whatever Sean sees on paper or whatever he got up front, obviously I'm not at practice every day to understand the guards and the tackles and what's going on. But whatever he sees or whatever he got, it's a reason why he's not consistently trying to establish that. And sometimes, coordinators, I've seen this. I've seen this with Adam Gase. I've seen this with Gary Kubiak, who does run first, right? I've seen this with Sean McVay. Coordinators don't want to sit there and watch you just getting 2-3 yards all day either now. Even though you're supposed to stick with it because eventually that grows, but you don't want to sit there and watch that all day and putting your quarterbacks in 3rd and 6th, especially when you got rookie quarterbacks. So I know the play calling is a little different. Like having a guy like Drew Brees or having a guy like Russell Wilson, you're okay being in 3rd and 6 and 3rd and 7 every once in a while because who they are. You're not okay with that with Bo Nix. So if you're not being efficient in a run, I can see that as well.
Let me throw this out there too, though. I think the way that the training camps have been, and the offensive line's not playing in preseason. We're basically 2 preseason games in. You watched the Jets last night, and people were saying they didn't really run the ball well in the first 2 weeks. All of a sudden, they're getting their act together. I think you're going to see some of that. The run game is not as easy as you think it is to make it mesh, and there's timing involved and there's coordination involved. And I think that now that teams are getting a couple preseason or regular season games in, people are going to figure out how to run the ball.
No, I think you're spot on there. I think a lot of the teams look at the first 4 weeks now of the regular season as like the official preseason because a lot of these guys don't play in the actual preseason. So they're seeing
Aaron Rodgers didn't take 1 snap in preseason.
Yeah.
I mean,
He
look
looked-
at Bryce Young. Bryce Young took one series in the last preseason game.
Hey, speaking of Bryce Young, I've heard rumors that there'd be something going for him to Miami. As a Dolphin fan, that intrigues me. Is there any rumors in the what are you guys hearing when you guys put your tin cup up to the wall? What rumors are you guys hearing?
Well, I know I've talked to the Panthers. They're not going to give Bryce Young away. They still think that you took him number one for a reason. All right, so they're not giving him away. I mean, if Miami makes an offer, Scott will tell you he could sit there and say, "I love my wife," but if you offer him 2 1s, he might not trade. He might not trade her, but he's going to think about it.
Yeah, you know what? From my standpoint, is he's in not knocking them at all, the team itself, but it's the sum of the parts. It's not the individual. When you're a young quarterback, and unless you're John Elway, Brett Favre, whatever, you can dominate a game by yourself, but that doesn't happen. There might be 5 right now in the NFL that can do that. Mm-hmm. So when you get young guys, you got to surround them with a running game, definitely pass protection, and a tight end. And the outside is important. Don't get me wrong, and you can get those guys. They're not hard to get. I mean, maybe not number 1s, but 2s and 3s and 4s you can get. But it's the sum of the parts. It's not the individual. And he's way too young to give up on. Way too young.
And talented. Like one thing I love about Bryce is as anticipation. Yeah, we'll talk about that. I'm glad you got that. But one thing, yeah, you got the 49, whatever. But one thing that I like about Bryce is as anticipation. I know this is not on our outline, but since we got Scott here, I want to ask you a question. When you have an owner that's like that, right? When you have an owner that's like that, how do you, as a GM, how do you cipher through that? Right? Because no,
I got you.
When I was in Carolina when Tepper took over, Tepper talked about how he came from the Steelers. So when I hear him say that, I'm like, well, the Rooneys definitely had to build it, bro. It just didn't just snap and it happened. Steel curtain and it was built. So why are you not being patient? Or why does it seem from the outside you're not being patient? But when you have an owner that's kind of like Strickler like that, how do you decipher that as a GM?
You know what? CJ, I was very lucky, with Green Bay when I first started. Of course, it's not one owner, but there's a president and all that. And then San Fran, there's an owner. Of course, Seattle, there's an owner. They never really confronted me about that stuff. They let the process work.
Right.
And I'll never forget. And Paul Allen, God rest his soul, who was a really good owner when I was in Seattle, I had to run a meeting one night for him and his people about who we might draft. And I can't remember the linebacker's name, but he was a big kid from Auburn. And I'll never forget the first thing he said to me was, "Look how good he looks in a uniform." Like, he's a big sucker. He's long, all this. And he's like, "That's all I need to see. He looks good in a uniform. It'd be good in a Seattle uniform." But to answer your question, I was lucky to never have an owner that would step in and say, "We have to do this, have to do that." They'd always be like, "What do you think? Why are we doing this? Why are we doing that?" Right. Which I respect. It's our organization. They're the one paying the bills. But I would not fit in very good with an owner to tell me what to do. Yeah. I mean, unless I understood they knew football.
Yeah.
And nowadays, a lot of these owners, not a lot, some of them, they don't understand football. They understand business. Mm-hmm. And it's you gotta live it. You gotta understand it to be right. And you're gonna miss at times. Don't get me wrong. Russell Wilson, I think, in my opinion, was not a bad sign for the Broncos because I knew him from Seattle. Right. I knew what kind of guy he was. I know he got a little bit out of control at times with his ego, but I knew what kind of person he was. And I knew he's a football player. And it's all said and done. That's what you're looking for.
Sorry, Peter, go ahead.
What I was going to say is I think that the Broncos, the interesting test of the Broncos is going to be that they're playing Tampa. Tampa's down 3 of their best defensive players, but it's sort of their first. When you go west to east, that's a tough road game.
It's a tough road game.
You're going down to humidity. You're going down to 11 o'clock game. Yeah. And you're going 2,000 miles east. And so now they are staying in west. They're staying back east for the week.
Yep.
And so I'm going to ask Scott about that afterwards. I think that's a good team building exercise. The Niners used to do that all the time. But so I think that the Broncos do have a chance, but it is a little more difficult to go west to east.
Speaking of guys that drafted by organizations, if we look at Sam Darnold turning it into a decent quarterback for the Vikings, just 2 games in, a little early. We got Geno Smith, who's a decent quarterback now for the Seahawks. We don't want anything happen to Bo Nix, but if Zach Wilson comes in and balls out for the Broncos, would you ever want to draft a QB and show up to the Jets facility? Would you ever want to be that QB again?
Apparently not, the way you put it.
All these guys they leave.
The thing about it is there are good quarterbacks out there every year, and not all are day one starters. I never forget when I was in Green Bay, we took Aaron Brooks and we took Matt Hasselbeck. We're talking 5th, 6th rounds. And we had Brett Favre. So we weren't worried about the starter at all. Ended up trading both of them, one for a third, one for a second. And Ron Wolf always told me, he says, you always draft a quarterback every year in the draft. Doesn't matter if it's, 5th round, 6th round, 7th round, doesn't matter. Always just load yourself up with some. But it's with quarterbacks, it's tough for them when they're young. I'm telling you. I mean, you saw the stuff yesterday. They're showing the cover 2 stuff and how defenses are switching back and forth. And all of a sudden, when you watch the line of scrimmage, you got to be able to identify. But then all of a sudden, when you're identifying, you think as a young guy, then you don't know because they flip it on you. Now, once you get some experience, like last night with Aaron Rodgers, he understood everything they're trying to do to him. Everything. But
the game goes at a whole different pace.
Yesterday it looked so good. It was quarterback at his finest yesterday when it looks like that.
I remember CJ's first year, he's a little wild little Bronco, no pun intended, and he thought he already thought he was NFL ready, and he's basically a combination of Barry Sanders and Walter Payton. And I'm like, dude, you'll see the game will slow down in your head, and he thought he had it all, and all of a sudden his first offseason, he goes to minicamp, he's like, wow, the game is just so much different now in my head.
Yeah, it just changed. I mean, and sometimes that jump, I know GMs and coaches look for that jump from year 1 to year 2, and it just changed. And, you see that. Like, I look at Sam Darnold, like, if you look at Sam Darnold with Goose, Adam Gase, he was fine. And then he got mono. So he goes mono for 4 weeks because he's young, quarterback, having fun in New York. Right, he gets mono, right, and then he sits, and then like everything after that just starts to do this, and then Scott can, Tim and Peter can too, because they're the one recruiting us or grabbing us, right? Scott's drafting us, Pete's recruiting us to be his client, and it's a mindset thing too. Like Pete just saying, like I thought I was a smart football player, and I was this, and my mindset was this, and it took for me to actually get in it and be like, oh, nah, I really don't know what I think I know. And then after a year, right, boom, the mindset changes. It's like, okay, let's take this serious and do this. Some of these young cats don't take it serious until year 3, year 4. It takes a long. It doesn't fact does it click. Some of them just don't take. Like Kyler Murray, I think Kyler Murray's taking it serious now than he was his first 2 or 3 years in the league. Like he's finally saying, okay, I'm the franchise. Y'all really want me to do this, and now I'm seeing it different because I'm taking it more serious than I ever took it.
You watch Aaron Rodgers out there, and he's like, boom, boom, boom. It's like, he sees, there's my parents are over there in section 2. That guy there is allergic to seafood. I mean, he sees everything that's going on. Mahomes is like that. Clearly, Tom Brady is like Peyton Manning. He would see. You could talk about this, CJ. He came up the line of scrimmage with 20 seconds left on the clock. He saw it all. He's just fooling around for 15 seconds.
Peyton was so good. Peyton will look at your demeanor and be like, he's not coming. Like he just sees it, or he'll look at the safety and go, he's gonna roll to the top, and they're gonna give me cover 3. And they can be in a too high shell, or they can be rolled, and he's like, I know what this safety is gonna do because his foot is back, like. But when you take it serious, right, it does a different thing for you. And I think that's what helped me. And I think with some of these young kids, they think it's football. They don't understand that this is life. It's the NFL, and this is your job. It's still football, still a kid's game, king's ransom, as we like to say in the locker room. But you got to put your life into this if you expect to be successful. It ain't like just college and high school where you can go out there and I'm better than everybody. No, it's not going to be like that. All 11 on both sides of the ball are just as good, if not better than you.
Correct.
No, it's
Correct.
crazy.
And that is the one thing that, with what Scott has to do as a scout, an evaluator, is the ability to figure out on tape whether that quarterback, that game's slowing down in his head or not. Does he have it? Does he have the anticipation? And then when it comes to the next level and things are going a lot faster, if you make a throw a second late in the NFL, it's coming back your way because those corners are so much better.
Yep.
No, absolutely. Hey, CJ, what happens when you win 2 games in a row?
You get a chance to win 3 games.
It's a winning streak. It's a winning streak. We're going to talk about Coach Prime and the chance of them starting to streak up.
I will tell you this about the best part about winning 2 games in a row is when you go in the locker room and coach says after the win, see you on Wednesday.
See you on Wednesday. That's part.
I remember Trevor Price, the former Bronco, when he played for the Ravens, and Brian Billick was the head coach, and Billick was known for being very eloquent but also very verbose, and he would just go forever. And I asked him one time, I said, how was Coach Billick today? How long did he go? He goes, I don't care how long he goes, as long as he ends it by we'll see you Wednesday. He goes, as long as he wants, as long as he finishes, I'll see you on Wednesday.
Coming up, we're going to talk about the CU and Baylor, but first, we just want to mention Simpler.aa. They help your organization be seen in a complex digital world. Look for their link in our description and a link to set an appointment if your organization can be assisted by being seen in a digital world by SEO, digital marketing, programmatic marketing, whatever your organization needs. This weekend, since it's raining in Denver, we're probably going to do a watch along. Tampa Bay, Denver, 11 o'clock our time, 1 o'clock out east. Scott, you're in Tampa, so you're in enemy territory this weekend. Peter, who do we have coming in for the watch along?
Well, for certainly we'll have this group, but hopefully we'll maybe get Alan Lazard because they played last night.
Okay.
We're going to have Matty Steinmetz, who's the big sports talk guy in San Francisco, talk about the Niners and what they're doing. They've got a lot of injuries, Scott.
No, I know they do. But you know what though, with that culture, they'll be all right. They'll stand there and keep fighting the fight. I guarantee it.
And I'm working on trying to get Shaq Barrett. No promises. Working on it. So
10, 11 in the morning would be tough for a lot of these athletes.
It's 1 o'clock out east for Shaq's at. So
yeah, Shaq should still be in Tampa, so he should be chilling. Sure.
So can CU and Coach Prime stick with the run over 100 yards for CSU? CJ, will they run the ball as well against Baylor?
I don't know, man. Baylor, so Dave Aranda, it's crazy. Like, is Dave Aranda a good DC because he had all those guys at LSU? And then he gets a job at Baylor, but then he wins the Big 12 his first year at Baylor. They play strong on defense. I know he does, if I can remember correctly, I know he does some exotic things. It's really not exotic. He still rushes forward, just how he brings the forward. Sometimes it's the 3 linemen in the corner. Sometimes it's just the 4 linemen. Sometimes it's 2 linemen, 2 linebackers, or linebacker nickel, 2 linemen. So it depends how it goes. I'm really more on the other side of the ball, right? Baylor has ran the ball really effectively, and they got a dynamic dual threat quarterback who can move, and it'll be interesting to see how the defense stops the run than it is when Colorado trying to establish the run. So I'm curious to see how that looks. That's kind of where that matchup goes for me on that end.
Baylor ran for over 230 yards against Air Force last week. Is that Air Force graduated a ton of guys, like over half their starters? Is that a result of going against Air Force, or are they just really good at running the ball?
It's a combination of both.
What do you think, Scott? You're the one who watched college tape.
Yeah, you know what? I think Baylor's trying to find themselves out. I think it's a good matchup for CU for sure. I respect the head coach, like CJ said, what he did at LSU with that defense, but they had a lot of talent. But they still play hard. Air Force, love them to death. It's a bunch of me's out there.
Amen.
You know what I'm saying? Competing, trying hard, doing everything they possibly can do, but they're not big. You know what I'm saying? They're not powered. I mean, point of attack, they struggle.
Those cockpits are small for those airplanes.
Yeah.
Let me throw this fly in the ointment, though. It hasn't rained here in Colorado in who knows all summer, and it's supposed to start raining about 3 o'clock tomorrow afternoon and continue for the whole day. That's got to affect on a grass field, Folsom Field, that's going to affect the game. And if CU can't run it, I think that's going to be issues for them.
Oh, absolutely.
And that's going to be interesting, right? Because like you got to stick with the run, right? Can't put the ball in your son's hands and let him fling it all over the field 30, 40 times. It's raining that hard.
Thank you, Scott.
Oh yeah, you can.
They got gloves for that.
It's raining that hard, right?
A torrential downpour, Scott?
That's all right.
They got gloves for that, don't they?
Man.
Yeah,
knows the
usually takes the gloves off. Yeah, you playing everything. I love when it rains because I know I just added 10 more carries to my day. 10 more carries is coming from my day. So I think it's a good matchup. It'll be good. I mean, I got to see you winning it. I know we're gonna do our predictions. I got to see you actually winning that game at home. But I do think don't get it twisted. Dave Aranda will have a plan, and if his kids coming in focused, ready to go, it should be a dogfight.
But
CJ,
I'll tell you this, CJ, real quick, and I'll be short. CU's got 2 damn good football players.
Amen to that.
You know what I'm saying?
Game changers.
Top 10 picks.
Right,
Yeah.
Game changers.
If you go in any game with having 2 top 10 picks, you're gonna be in every game.
Yeah, you got a chance. You got a chance.
Yeah, you definitely got a chance.
CJ, I love
football.
CJ, I love how you're like, oh, it's going to be raining. I'm going to have a better day at the office. I see that it's raining outside. I'm like, I'm calling in sick. I don't want to leave. I don't want to go.
Yeah, man, I love the rain. That's why even the Broncos this week, right? Like when we played Tampa in 2016 or 2017, I can't remember. You get this, Scott will tell you, you just get this 30 minutes of downpour out of the middle of nowhere. So in that 30 minutes of game, if there's no lightning delay, all of a sudden, I got 6 more carries out of the middle of nowhere.
Hey, speaking of the Broncos, one quick question for you, CJ. Can Florida State get back on their winning ways against Cal this week?
I hope not. I hope not. Trust me.
Wait, you're saying Florida State's going to be 0-4?
0-4 against my Bears, yes. So we can have this game day come down to Miami next week, and y'all going to see me on College Game Day with Pat and Corso and Nick Saban, me and Marshawn. Me and Sean going to be up there. But one thing I do not like, and I've had this, right? This is 2000 and I can't remember. We played the 0-6 Giants on Sunday night at home and lost.
Oh,
teams who are winless are desperate, and they know they're the mistakes. So when they play a perfect, clean game, it's like, why did you have to do that against us? So it's gonna be a tough fight. It's gonna be a tough fight for the Bears up there in Tallahassee, though.
Oh, absolutely.
Well, it's the same deal though. For the Bears, you got a college team, especially because they, Pac-10 now in the ACC, they've probably never really had that kind of flight. You go from
other than Auburn this year, yeah, they never flew, but now they flying they going a little down further towards Florida, so they've never. Now they haven't done that in years, maybe ever.
I'll tell you what though, Cal's getting better now. You better be careful with them. Florida State's in a funk now, big funk. It's gonna be interesting.
As long as Cal doesn't improve too much till after the Miami game. That's all I'm asking.
Y'all got a guy who can spin it. That's what would make y'all tough to beat.
I mean,
and then Cristobal knows how to run the ball. I got a lot of respect for Mario. I heard him as a person. I hear he's kind of an a-hole, but as a coach, he definitely knows how to run the football. But y'all got a guy who can spin in the Cam Ward who he can play.
It's nice to have a quarterback, that's for sure. Speaking of quarterbacks, the Broncos are traveling to Tampa Bay to play the Bucs. They're 6.5 point underdogs. Where do you see the most improvement from the Broncos needing to be this week? We'll start with CJ.
Well, it has to be so kind of what we talked about last week, right? It has to be what they do when they get in the red zone. They've been moving the football, right? They have in 2 games, they have 3 turnovers all in the red zone, right? How do we find a way not to turn the ball over in the red zone and put up points, right? I think what VJ's doing defensively, this would be a nice little test in the air. I think Patrick Surtain will play way better than he did last week, right? Guarding Mike Evans or Chris Godwin, whoever he's guarding. But I think VJ will have a good plan. I think the Broncos defense will do the things that they need to do to keep it in it. But does Sean cause a good game? A. B, do they not turn the ball over in the red zone? Or does Sean not make some of those mistakes where he go for it and put his defense in a bad position, right? Against a hot team like Baker and them right now who's been scoring at will. So the biggest improvement will be that.
Scott, where do you see the need for the biggest improvement with the Broncos this week?
Just finishing drives, 6 points. You know what I'm saying? Putting the ball in the end zone. That's gigantic. You know, field goals are field goals, whatever. Turnovers are tremendously bad, especially in the red zone. They got to be able to finish drives. And it's tough with a young quarterback. I mean, you get down there, you know, everything shrinks down. You know, the ball's going to come out quick. He's got to read stuff quick. And it's the best thing for him to be going through this just because he'll learn from it. Like we talked about with experience. But you got to finish drives. You have to finish drives. You got to put touchdowns on the board, not field goals.
Peter, where do you see the most improvement needs to come from the Broncos?
Needs to come or will come.
What would you, even if we lose the game, but there's key improvement areas, what would you be like, this is,
clearly the defense has really been playing well. They've kept them in the game. VJ's done a really nice job. I think that when you've got quarterbacks like, you know, Baker Mayfield, I think he knows how to stop a guy like that. You can keep him in the pocket and make him beat you with his arm. I think that what has to happen, though, is they have to establish the run game to just give Bo Nix a chance. Get the rush off him. Tampa's going to come from – they're going to be exotic. And they're going to be coming from all over.
That's Todd. Todd going to blitz you.
Well, the two,
Oh, yeah.
The two things that's going to happen with Todd is, one, his players are going to play hard, and two, he's going to blitz. Now, here's a little unknown fact that Todd Bowles, where did he graduate college?
I don't know that.
I'm saying Howard.
I'm saying University of Phoenix.
No. I didn't say where he played college. I said, where did he get his college degree?
I don't know. I know this. He's a smart guy, and he's a really, really good guy.
Yeah, I love TB.
He's one of the nicest guys.
One of the nicest guys you'll never. It's crazy how nice he is because when you see the blitz packages, you would think he's a tough, mean. He's one of the nicest coaches I've ever been around.
Well, when you hear him talk, CJ too.
Yeah, that too. Soft spoken.
Oh, beyond.
You could look it up. He graduated from Mount St. Mary's University in Maryland, where Gavin.
I knew that.
Where I teach and where Gavin goes, because his agent is Tony Agnon, who graduated from there, and he set it up for him to do remote during COVID, and he actually graduated there and walked maybe a year or two because he was maybe a year short on degree.
Oh, that's awesome.
Do you guys want to hear a really funny story quick?
Yeah, always.
Really funny.
Is it funny? Is it really funny?
So I'm in Green Bay, right? I'm an area scout. And Todd Bowles, we hired Todd Bowles. This is like my second year there. And Ron Wolf, who was a GM's like, can you help him, you know, take him out for a week, kind of show him the road, show him how to do school calls, colleges stuff. You know, he's an area scout. And it's like, so I take him out and, you know, we have a great time. I mean, you know, we're just, like we talked about, such a nice guy. And then it's like mid-season and I get a call from Ron Wolf. He says, you talked to Todd? I'm like, no, why? He's like, well, he hasn't sent a report in for 3 weeks. I'm like, oh, let me give him a call. So it's like, oh, I'm like, what are you doing? You got to be on the road working, sending reports in. He says, no, I took the D coordinator job with Doug Williams. I think it was like Clark, Atlanta or something.
Oh, wow.
I'm like, you got to let somebody know that stuff, bud. He says, no, I'm a scout. I mean, I'm a D coordinator. He says, no, I'm moving up. I'm like, all right.
Damn, what he should have done is kept sending in his scout
reports. That would have been hilarious.
Double dip.
But
Clark definitely wasn't paying him what y'all was paying him at that time, for sure.
No, it's hilarious. He said, no, I'm a D coordinator with Doug Williams. I think it was Clark, Atlanta, or wherever Doug first went, whatever it was.
I think Doug started at Clark, and then he went to Grambling.
Then he went back to his alma mater, which is Grambling.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Scott had the privilege to work with Doug in Washington, and there's not a finer human being around.
No, he's a good dude. Matter of fact, when I was there, he had a stroke, and I felt really bad for him. You don't have to come in here and watch tape with us. He wouldn't back down, would not back down.
No, he's football through and through. But I do think the Broncos, they have this 2 games, and if they can pull these 2 out,
that's a good move. That's a good turn for them in the first quarter of the season for sure.
Right, and if they can go 4-4 or 2-2, 500 in September, I think that'll be good. And so they're going to go Tampa, and then they got the Jets. Now, I want to take a little bit of a break, Rob, from both your script and from football, and talk about the Dodgers hitter, Tony.
Oh, Tony!
The greatest individual game in baseball. Now, Scott played baseball, Wichita State. He got drafted and played in the Blue Jays organization, so he knows something about baseball. But
I thought he was Randy Johnson when I first saw him log in. I'm like, we have Randy Johnson coming on the show.
He wishes. But Scott, have you ever seen a day like that? 6 for 6, 2 home runs, 4 extra
3 home runs,
3 home runs,
3 home runs, 2 stolen bases,
10 ribbies.
10 ribbies. Like that's creative player stuff. That you're doing a video game.
It looked like the last home run was off some infielder though, who just lobbed the ball.
No, it was. But that's all right though. It's still a home run's a home run.
Yeah,
Get that son of a gun like 450.
Yeah, he smashed it. He
smashed it. I know this. I'll tell you this, Peter. I was, player of the year in Colorado, whatever, number 1, all that stuff. Drafted by the Mets out of high school, all that stuff. I never had a 6 for 6 day with 3 home runs ever, and that's high school. We're not talking Major League Baseball.
That's a good month for some guys.
Yeah,
hell yeah, it is.
Means 2 stolen bases. He's in the 50-50 club.
Yep.
First ever. Like the kid deserves the paycheck that he'd earned. If anything, that's one of the Dodgers asking more.
So next year, do you let him pitch, Scott?
Yeah, if he wants to. If he wants to, a DH is a DH, and it's cool. Don't get me wrong. Runs scored, RBIs, all that stuff's cool. But if you get a 2-headed monster, I mean, it'd be like having the best punter and best kicker as the same player on your team.
Yeah, if you can control,
you can go both ways.
If you can control 5 or 6 innings, you don't need him to be, you don't need him to pitch. He don't need to be Kershaw. He don't need to old Kershaw or. Correct. Bumgarner who can pitch 8-9 innings. You only need 5 or 6 innings out of him to keep it contained because he's gonna give it to you on the other end of putting runs on the board. Like,
but the other thing that CJ that's unique and you guys probably don't understand, or you do, but you don't. But when you're pitching, your mindset's totally different than the hitter.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? You're worried about we got this guy coming up, this guy coming up, this guy, and all of a sudden you can walk off the field. Now you're batting first the next inning. You got to flip your mind so quick.
That's dope.
And
Scott,
it's tough.
Scott, we got a couple questions in the comments. Thoughts on Jaden Daniels, what he's done so far?
You know what? I think he's played well, for a rookie. I think he's still taking too many hits, that he doesn't need to take. But I think they got a star in the making there. I really do. I've done a lot of work on him the last 3 years because, at Arizona State and, of course, LSU. He got better and better each year. I mean, dramatically. I went from a 5th-round pick to a 3rd-round pick to a 1st-round pick, each year. So you saw development. It's going to be the same guy in the NFL each year. Like CJ was talking about a little bit earlier, now first years are tough, but your biggest move is year 1 to year 2. If you got a good football player,
and the reason
he thinks it, he understands the position.
The reason why the first year is so tough, people don't understand. It's the process, and then you jump into the season. So like you get ready for the combine meetings and flying around, pro day,
100%.
Draft, OTAs, or rookie mini camp, OTAs, mini camp. Yep. Then you get a little 6-week break, and then you're in this long season. And my rookie year, I did all that and went to the Super Bowl. So I didn't even February come around. I'm fried. I was fried by the end of February. Told Pete, don't call me for 2 months. He's like, you gotta be back in the building in April. Right. And it's just like depending on who you are as a rookie season, that first season is always the longest season, especially for those guys who are like Jaden Daniels, those 1st-round picks that are flying from team to team to team in the mix in the middle, even before or after they pro day.
Well, and it's still not working out, trying to work out, but you're not working out, I mean, you're worried about the next team you're going to, who you're going to meet with, you're not physically taking care of yourself. You're eating how you're eating, whatever you can eat, it's a bear.
Yeah, it's a long year. It's a long rookie year.
Scott, who does he remind you of?
Honestly, a shorter version. I know he's got a little height to him. Randall Cunningham. He's that athletic. He's that flexible, and he's got a longer release, but he's got length to him, and he can throw the crud out of it now. I mean, it's pretty impressive. And I respected Randall Cunningham quite a bit as a player, you know, in Philly. I thought he was, you know, one of the better quarterbacks. I think this kid could be the same type of guy.
Well, ironically, so you were the general manager of the Washington Redskins, now the Commanders. You have him in the building. 2 questions. What is your goal for this year, knowing you're not going to be a Super Bowl contender? And then what do you have to do to surround him with pieces and toys for next year?
Well, you understand it. You know, you got to meet him. And I've talked to him before. He's a really good kid. And he's all about the game. He's all about ball. He's all about understanding the position, learning the position, getting better each week. You know, from a GM standpoint, you always got to surround these cats. I mean, he's not Brett Favre. He's not John Elway. He's not Peyton Manning, you know, but he has enough talent to win with. But it's the sum of the parts again. It's not the individual. You know, now he can make things happen, which is he's a dual threat. You know, he can stay in the pocket and make the throw, and he can also get outside the pocket and make the run, you know, move the chains. And I think nowadays that's so important in the NFL because all these defenses are getting a little bit undersized compared to what they used to be. And they're playing with athleticism and speed and running all over the field, you know, but he can make but he just got to make sure he keep himself healthy.
Well, that's what I'm saying, right? Because you can't build culture and you can't build continuity if he's on his back.
Correct.
Robert Griffin, RG3.
And who's on the field.
Well, Scott was there for RG3. I'll tell you a funny story about that. So
I'll be right back. I got to hit the restroom real quick. I'll be right back.
So when the Redskins drafted RG3, I remember the first thing they did was they signed Rex Grossman.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And so I called, and this was the year before Scott took the job. So Bruce Allen calls me up and says, "So what do you think? We're signing Rex Grossman." I said, "That's great. You got RG3 and RG3 and out."
Oh, that's funny. Hey, CJ, we got a comment for you here from Alex. Love you, CJ. Thank you for helping us win a Super Bowl. You ran hard and took a beating for the team. We all love. Go Broncos.
Oh, man, all fun. Thank you, Alex. It was fun days in those times.
So speaking of playing again, so Peter mentioned it earlier. We have 2 East Coast games in a row this week against Tampa, next versus New York. Do you prefer to stay out east for the week or go back and forth typically? Have you done this before?
I have never in my career stayed on the other side. So I've always went back. I've always had coaches who go back. I never thought that bothered me because I knew the East Coast games were at 1 o'clock kickoffs unless they were prime time, right? So when you play with Peyton, we got 5 primetime games. I don't think the NFL ever did us janky by playing that 4. Like I never played at 1 o'clock with Peyton either. So it was like play at 4:25 or we play at 8:30. So, but I don't think I've never had 2 games like that. I know I've never stayed out east long enough. So I can't really give you. I like going back home because I still got a routine at home than being in the hotel and all that all day. And you know it's new, and I probably want to go see the city. And you know. I don't know if they give me curfews every day. I don't need no curfew. I'm in my 20s. Like, come on, man.
Well, the Broncos are going to the place in West Virginia, Sweetbriar, or whatever it is. So
yeah,
ain't no social life
out there.
You're not gonna need a curfew.
Yeah, you'll be very bored for sure.
Yeah.
But I never stayed. Right, we've always went back. I just, Coob, Fox, VJ, all my head coaches, McVay, it was always, we're going home.
No, so coming up, I want to talk about our watch line. If you're watching right now, don't forget to like, comment, share, send us a question in the YouTube or Twitter feed. We'll answer it. Like, share, comment, tell your friends. And this Sunday, 11 o'clock Mountain Time, the upcoming watch along with Tampa Bay, the 4 of us, plus others. Peter's got them all lined up. But I got a question for Peter. This is like an agent corner here. I'm curious what Scott thinks about this too, and CJ. It's like Brock Purdy is getting ready to get paid. Is he going to be paid more like a Trevor Lawrence with an average of about $55 million a year, or Geno Smith more of the average of $25 million? As an agent, who are you comparing Brock Purdy to?
Well, as an agent,
you ask Pete as an agent what Pete wants.
That's a loaded question.
As an agent, it's what Joe DiMaggio said before, a couple years before he passed away, and someone said, if you were a free agent now, of course, before Ohtani, Joe DiMaggio is considered the greatest living ball player of all time, And they said, what would you ask George Steinbrenner for in a contract? And he said, well, I'd go to George and say, you and I are about to become partners. So as an agent, I would be going to Jed York and say, Jed, we're about to become partners. Now, I think that Purdy's, 2 years outplayed, obviously, the last pick in the draft. As the agent, you're hoping that he continues to do so. They've got a bunch of injuries. And I think last year teams started to figure him out, and you got to figure out who is he going to be. Is he going to be Tim Hasselbeck? Because I think that's sort of what scouts think that, his skill set is more like he's never going to be Mahomes. He's never going to be Jaden Daniels. And then you have to say to yourself, if you're the organization, how much of this is Kyle Shanahan? How much is it the system? How much is it this? And if you have $60 million allocated to the quarterback, then you can't be spending $20 million on a left tackle and they got 2 receivers at $30 million each. So it all has to fit into the jigsaw puzzle.
First of all, Peter, it's Matt Hasselbeck, not Tim Hasselbeck.
Oh, they're both Hasselbecks.
One's had a little different career than the other.
One's had a different career than the other. I was going to say Tim.
Neither one
probably underachieving with Tim.
You're paying him the league minimum.
Both are follically challenged, though.
You know what? From my standpoint, is the market's the market, and as a GM, you have to deal with the agents, of course, and the players, and you respect them, what he's done for your organization so far. So you don't want to lowball him, but yet you got to be smart, like Peter was saying. It's some of the parts. You got to pay Trent Williams. You got to pay, Brandon Ayuk. You got to pay Debo, or you're going to lose
Christian. Hey,
yeah.
How about that linebacker they got there? Who might be the best?
Warner.
Oh my God.
Yeah. So it puts you in a tough situation. I think I talked about this the other day a little bit. Is that you almost get vilified with not doing certain deals because you drafted so well or you signed free agents, and it's a cap. It's a hard cap, and you only go to a certain amount. And of course, they all want to be taken care of, and understandably, why not? They've been successful for the last 5 years, and these are good players, good football players. But you have to identify the position, identify the importance of the position, and identify the human being as a teammate and what he brings to the locker room, what he brings in the offseason, what he brings to tough weeks, tough months, And I think with the quarterback, you have to be really, really careful because they're hard to find, And Brock's already proven more than I thought he ever would that he could be the guy, and I respect that, I totally respect it. And I don't see a reason why he'd be slowing down. Now, he's not the biggest, not the strongest, not the fastest, doesn't have the most power, none of that. But he's a good football player.
How does he slip to the last pick in the draft?
He did not have a good senior year. He played 4 years at Iowa State, 4-year starter. Really 5 years, I think, tell you the truth, when it's said and done. And you didn't see upside, and their team, hit it his sophomore and junior year, kind of. Now, Iowa State's Iowa State. But then with the bowl games and that kind of stuff, and he had a really good head coach and all that.
But Breece Hall was like the man down that way. Like,
yeah.
A lot of that. Even the pieces around him, the receivers wasn't as strong as the run game. And
but
the tight end was
big tight end, yeah. And the thing about it was, the more you watched him, me personally, and I'm not. It's not exact science at all. I've been wrong many, many times. The more I disliked him, I was just like, okay, what's he bring besides the mental and the leadership and the experience?
Yeah.
Physically, there's no upside. And he's just a little small-handed, short-armed, small feet, the whole package, but the son of a gun sees the game, and that's the thing, if 75% of the player coming out mentally, you're 50% ahead of all the NFL.
Yep.
And that's when you nail stuff. I was very lucky to have 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th rounders that played a long time. Seattle, San Fran. I mean, it was really cool. But they had like the little it factor that, you think but you don't know when they're coming out. As you're well aware, CJ, I mean, you talk to a lot of teams. Scouts would call you, they'd BS you and tell you things and try to pick your brain and, your background, your family, what makes you tick, that kind of stuff. And if you can figure that out, you're going to have a successful organization. But it's hard to figure out. Very, very hard to figure out. But he had that from the standpoint of the mental, and that's what he's living off now.
Scott, as a GM, how are you planning for a situation like this where if he decides to play hardball and potentially walk, are you looking at situations A, B, and C, what's your how are you planning as an organization?
You always have to. Of course you want him back. You want him back for the right price, but again, you're gonna have to take care of him. But you got to plan for B and C no matter what, because it can change in 5 hours. Peter knows. He's had clients that they're in Pittsburgh, and all of a sudden, next thing you know, they signed in Seattle. And Peter's like, I had to do it. Look at the deal. So all of a sudden, now you're like, wow, we weren't prepared for that. Now you always have to be prepared. Always.
I think.
Hold up. See, we have a question for you in the comments, I think, Rob.
Yep. CJ, who's your favorite running back in college football? And do you think it is possible for Ashton Jeffrey to win the Heisman?
So Ashton Jeffrey's balling right now. I don't think he wins the Heisman because A, competition, B, is Boise State. There's a lot of political in that Heisman. So he is doing this thing, but I don't think he'll be the high school. And obviously my favorite running back right now, it's tough to say.
You better go Oklahoma State, buddy.
He can play. The kid out of Oklahoma State, number 0, I don't know his name.
He can
play. He can roll, right?
Oh yeah.
The kid at Cal, when Jaden gets going, I think Jaden can play.
No, you're
right. I think some of these systems hurt some of these RBs and get a chance to show because it's so pass heavy. But the kid from Oklahoma State, what should definitely be somewhere in that second round pick, somewhere in that range.
He can go one now.
He can go further. Oh, he that talented. I ain't seen too much of him. I've seen a couple games he can play.
Scott, who same question for you, Scott.
Ollie for sure. The thing is, CJ, you're like this. He's 6'2.5" to 6'2" 3/4.
Yeah.
He's 225 pounds. The guy ran for 1,700 last year.
Mm-hmm.
Out of nowhere, he was a backup, and they put him in like game 3. And he just took off. Now this year he's not off to a really good start yet, but he's legit. He's cool.
How about that Northern Illinois running back against Notre Dame?
He had a good one, just running around here and there. You get a couple of those every once in a while. I'm telling you about a back though who I recruited, who you should look at in the future. He's a freshman for Alabama, Justice Hayes. Justin Hayes is going to be a baller.
Where's he from?
From Georgia.
Okay.
Went to one of the biggest schools out there in Georgia. I forgot the name, but gold and green. That's the high school color.
Yeah.
But
was he 4-star or 5-star?
He was a 5-star coming out.
Gotcha.
I didn't recruit him. I was at Rice, but I saw his tape and I was like, oh, this dude can play. Like, I see why you are best running back in the country and getting recruited. Obviously, he went down there thinking he was going to play for Nick, but Justice Hayes is somebody in the future. But back to the Brock Purdy situation, I think with Purdy, I think John Lynch has done this before with Jimmy G, right? And is Purdy better than Jimmy G? I believe so. I think they understand the system and what makes the player better and the pieces around. And I think when Jimmy G got paid in the trade or got paid after the trade, he wasn't up there with Dak and Aaron Rodgers at the time because Aaron Rodgers was getting paid at the time. Matthew Stafford got paid at the time. He wasn't in that market, but it was good enough for Jimmy G and the Niners to bring the pieces around. So the Niners, obviously made the Super Bowl in 2019. And I think it's something like that. I don't know if it would be $55 million, but I think they know how to handle it, saying, hey, Brock, if we give you this, we can still do this for the things around you so you can be successful. Because now he's not Andrew Luck. He's not a guy who can go win it by himself, 100 times, no matter how much it factor he is. It's just not him. But I think John has handled this in the right way before with Jimmy G, and I think they'll find a way to do it again. That's my perspective on it.
I agree. And then the thing about Jimmy G that was really cool was his overall record as a starting quarterback.
Yeah.
But again, some of the parts.
Yeah.
Some of the parts, because we know he ain't gonna go out and throw it 35 times, win a game for you.
Nope.
We got to be able to run the ball. You got to be able to, you got the tight end making plays. You got the running back making plays. You got your receivers making plays. You got your O-line standing up to it. And that's when you see the grand scheme of things from a general manager standpoint, you got to look at the entire picture, not just the individual. You got to look at okay, we give them this, we're going to lose this in 2 years, we're going to lose this in 3 years, and then all of a sudden you start seeing your roster going forward, because if we pay him that much, well, then he's out. Then you get the coaches involved and start explaining that to them. They're like, whoa, we don't want him to leave. Well, can't keep everybody.
Scott, have you watched Hemby from Maryland?
Who?
There's a running back at the University of Maryland.
I have not watched him.
Yeah. He's supposedly coming on right now.
And I also like the kid from Penn State. I don't know how you feel about him, Scott.
They got two of them there. They got two of them there.
Yeah, I like the kid from Penn, number 10. I like the kid from Penn State.
Yeah.
Fast, physical, good balance.
Yep.
The guy from Michigan who was supposed to be all everything, he struggled out of the game.
Be nice though. It's a long season. It's a marathon. I kind of killed him last year.
I'm the one that has to be nice.
Yes.
Speaking of the marathon, guys, this weekend, CU -2. They're favored by 2 over Baylor. Who you got in the torrential downpour up in Boulder? Scott, who do you got?
CU, hands down.
CJ.
I got Prime in the rain.
Coach Prime, super agent Peter Schaffer. Who you got? CU and Baylor.
Don't build his ego up as super agent.
I'm going to go. I see CU winning. I think the rain, if it's a significant rainstorm, Baylor's got a better chance. But if it's playable and Shedeur could do his thing, he's going to throw the ball all over the park.
Over under 51.5. How do you feel about that?
That's
under.
If it's rain, it's under for sure.
Under.
Even if it's not raining, I think it's under. I don't think Baylor scores a lot of points.
You're right.
Baylor offense is super struggling. Even though they got this Jeff Spiegel or Jay, I don't know. The kid, he was at Cal before he was at Texas State. He's an air raid guy. I hate the air raid with a passion. Any coordinator in that world, I'm not feeling.
Speaking of the air raid, the Broncos.
I wonder why you hate the air raid. I wonder.
Speaking of the air raid, Broncos in Tampa Bay this weekend, they're 6.5-point dogs with the over/under at 40.5. Just winning straight up, win or losing. Who do you got, Scott?
I shouldn't say anything. It's an employee.
Was he taught to like if you can't say anything nice, don't say anything nice, don't say anything at all?
Plead the fifth.
CJ,
I'm like Kirk Herbstreit on game day. I'm calling the game, so I can't pick it.
CJ, who you got?
I was right last week. This is a trap game for I will say that. This is a trap game for Tampa. Tampa feeling himself, and that's kind of how that goes. But I do think at home, Tampa Bay finds a way to squeeze it out. I think it'll be a close game, no closer than what people think. Peter, but I was right last week with the Steelers, and this week I'm riding with Tampa.
He's allergic to your take, CJ. He's allergic to it.
I'll take the Broncos with the points.
I'm taking the Broncos straight up. I think we're winning. I think we get our first one on the road. I think you guys are all wrong, and Debbie Downey's about the Broncos.
He just said he's taking the Broncos. Pete got Pete on your side.
He said the points. I'm taking the Broncos straight. I think Bo Nix gets his first W. I think we figure it out against Tampa Bay. I think Tampa Bay's I think you called it right, CJ, with the trap game. They're overlooking us because they got a big game the following week too. So I think the Broncos go in and surprise the league. It's a week-to-week league.
If Bo can get out of Todd's blitz package, then y'all got a shot. If Bo back there getting hit like Caleb Williams was on Sunday night, he'll be in trouble.
Anybody getting hit like Caleb's going to be in trouble back there. Doesn't matter. So, guys, thank you so much. We got one last question before we wrap it up. Coming in from the comments, Kevin Whitty, do you think Coach Prime gets fired or leaves Colorado first?
He's leaving, bro. You think Prime getting fired?
He ain't getting fired.
He's leaving. If anything comes to it, he is gone before your fire comes out of anybody's mouth in the state of Colorado.
He created a printing press up there for the money to build new buildings.
Elway couldn't fire Prime right now. He the Duke of Colorado.
Well, we'll certainly know. If Prime leaves on his own, we'll certainly know what he believes the talent level is up there because he ain't leaving if there's a lot of talent. But if he knows the cupboards are bare, he's out.
Is the house empty? The house is empty.
No, absolutely. Guys, thank you so much.
See you all on Sunday.
Quick parting thoughts. Peter, anything before we go?
What's better than football Fridays? Let's go.
Scott,
You know what? We got Nebraska, Illinois tonight in Lincoln. It's going to be a hell of a game.
We have Syracuse, Stanford too.
A little different, but I'm with you.
I think the Q's and McCoy, right? Obviously, leave Ohio State, goes to Syracuse. He got them playing well. That'd be interesting. But I agree with Scott. I think in Lincoln tonight, you got Matt Rule, offensive lineman, and Brett Bielema.
You're right.
Yeah, the defensive minded guy over there. That is going to be a very interesting matchup, and I'm good with that.
It's going to be a bloodbath. You wait and see.
Yeah,
They'll get after each other.
follow us for the watch along Sunday with the Bronco game. We'll be here where you find us always on YouTube, Twitter, wherever you find us. CJ, I was at a golf cart shop this week, and I thought of you. They said they can put shovels on their golf carts. I'm like, this seems like the CJ Anderson special, just plowing the roads with CJ Anderson on a golf cart. I can just picture it.
Why are they putting shovels on the? Are they planting in divots? Are they making that much divots? They gotta flip the divots over.
Absolutely, like, these are golf carts for your neighborhood.
That's just with Peter.
Okay, your golf ball, man. Don't hit the whole ground.
They can put a shovel on there, like you can shovel your driveway. I'm like, plow the roads with CJ Anderson. I think we got a promo going for you.
Hey, let's do it. I'm all in.
So, all right.
Hey, and I just want to say, I know we didn't get to it, but left tackles. Just be in the game, right? Like you win the Philly game because Judon jumps off sides and you didn't move. If you just move, then Saquon never drops the ball because we never get to that play because you win the game. So if you're a left tackle out there watching this, just stay in the game. If someone goes into the neutral zone, flinch so we can get the 5 yards and win the game.
Guys, thanks so much for watching. CJ Anderson, Peter Schaffer.
See y'all Sunday.
Scott, I don't even know how to pronounce your last name. McLaughlin?
McLuhan.
I was way out.
That's all right.
McLuhan.
Hey, I've been called a lot worse.
So
Scotty M. That's what we call it.
There you go.
Scotty M.
He ain't never been called late for dinner. I'll tell you that much.
Thanks for the guys at Simpler with digital marketing for supporting us. And thank you for listening. Subscribe, share, tell your friends. We're going to put this on Apple and iTunes and Spotify here in a few moments. Thank you guys.
Later.
Yeah, thank you.